Hi there, this is my channel, Jaru Walks. In the year 2024, I will embark on an epic walking journey across the United States. My plan is to walk 8,000 miles across the US 3 times, via the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. In the hiking world, this is known as a calendar year Triple Crown, and has only been completed by a handful of people in history. I plan to post weekly updates along the way, so you can join me for the journey. So this is my tarp setup. I just think tarps are fun and beautiful. Wide angle. But I'll bring it back. And I just wanted to quickly show how quickly I can take this thing down. So I've got 6 knots set up, and they're super tight, but they come undone if you do it the right way really easily. So boom, 1. And then, let's see. So I'll show you. I could lean with my whole weight on this knot. And then, oh, well, it's caught on that twig. Boom. Done. So again, I'm leaning against that. Hopefully this one's easy. Yep. And we're done. How long did that take? Like maybe just over a minute. All right, update from just below the summit of Wildcat Mountain. The Wildcats are a series of like peaks. I think it's like D through E, and then it goes in reverse order. So as you go up, D is the highest elevation one, and I'll turn it around. So that's that hill right there. At the top of it is Wildcat D. And then back here I have the Presidential Mountain Range, which I basically came along. Like if I do it in reverse order, I spent the night down there, but the day before I came up from this direction along that ridge, which connects all the way around to Washington, which I think is that peak right there. But anyway, this might be my point where I just make note of the Wildcat Peak. So this is so Wildcat has the steepest elevation gain of anywhere on the AT, and I just came up that portion. I'm done with it. So I know I have obviously more challenges ahead in Maine and whatnot, but this is kind of like towards the end of the challenges of the White Mountains, which is wild. And I don't know, I can't think of anywhere better to kind of sit here and celebrate it than on a ski lift. This peak right here is Madison, and I'm going to really zoom in. So I was at Madison, the peak, as the sun was setting, and I worked my way down this ridge line. And when I got right about here on, that exact spot, I turned around and I looked up over my shoulder, and I saw that the moon was rising up and over the peak. So I, tried to take a photo, but I noticed there was just kind of like strange clouds. I didn't think much of it. And then I turn around and I start hiking down the hill some more. And you can't tell it from here, but it's just that entire area is giant boulders, boulders the size of like little pickup trucks. And so you're working your way down this ridgeline, and I look up into the sky and I see what looks like to me like 50 cars all meeting up for a concert in the clouds, but they have their high beams on, and it's like they're in the middle of a fog embankment. And so as they're looking for their parking spaces, you're just seeing these beams just kind of jumping all around in the clouds. Um, and I wouldn't even quite call it alien. It just looks universal, like there was some conversation happening between Earth and the universe, and both ends of the party know what's going on, but I don't, you know. But it was just beautiful, and so I took a couple of photos, took a video, and then I just kept working my way down this ridge line, and you just have to imagine in your own mind maybe what that's like to just be working down the spine of this mountain, and as you look up above you, off this direction, there are these giant green beams of light overhead, and then as you look off over your shoulder this direction, to Mount Washington, there's like a ceiling of purple and green that runs all the way over the summit, you know, and the lights are just kind of dancing and jumping. So it was just magical coming down that ridge line 2 nights ago. And then I camped right here at the tree line, and the next morning hiked my way in and down to the AMC Center here, edited some videos, and then came up here this morning. So anyway, I just wanted to highlight kind of the route I took down Washington, and then also just to really emphasize in a way that you could really appreciate from here what my experience was with the Northern Lights hitting the United States in the second week of May. So pause for a trail update. So I just came down the trail there. That's not the actual AT. I took a wrong turn, but I'm glad that I took the wrong turn because I popped out onto this cliff. I'll turn the camera around so you can. I skidded to a stop is because this is a cliff. And I'm so glad I made that wrong turn because this is, to me, a symbolic cliff. That over there is Carter Dome. That down there, this kind of V shape is Carter Notch. And down in Carter Notch is the Carter Hut. That's the last hut on the entire AT northbound, at least that I'm aware of, at least in the White Mountains. And yeah, it's like a symbolic spot for me because really that marks the last mountain that when you read on paper about the Whites that is intimidating, you know? And for me, the intimidation factor is more when you layer the snow on the mountains. Like, I think when you hike these mountains maybe later in the summer, it's absolutely still grueling and exhausting, but as long as you don't give up, you're kind of guaranteed to make it through. And for me, hiking these in early spring, you know, you don't know what you're going to find. And you really don't know. If I didn't know when hitting Vermont and when hitting New Hampshire, if the snow conditions would be so challenging that it would be impassable. And I've found out through my own kind of like, I don't know, sheer determination. But also, I mean, there have been moments straight up that like I was in control, but it was scary, like hiking, like on Killington Mountain in Vermont, coming up Mount Washington up through the tree line at night, honestly hiking over Mount Washington, knowing that like if a storm rolls in this time of year, it could get sketchy quickly. You know, there are just many places coming through the Whites and and a couple in Vermont where it's not that it was sketchy, it was just straight up like kind of scary. And so to like walk into that fear, but to not run away from it, you know, but to kind of like square your shoulders and walk through it was a challenge straight up. And I just feel very accomplished standing here at this point. Not very many people will hike the AT in the early spring through those mountains. Most people will get off trail, delay their progress. Kind of, yeah, almost, I don't know. Yeah, like as of right now, earlier in the season, there were a couple of people ahead of me on the trail, and for different reasons, everyone got off trail. And as of right now, I am the hiker number one on the entire Appalachian Trail. There's nobody ahead of me on the trail, and there hasn't been, I think, since Massachusetts. And so really I've been trailblazing, like breaking through snow that was unbroken and going over mountains where in many situations nobody had left trail updates, you know, online or in Far Out, and it really felt like I was walking into the unknown. Not felt like, I was walking into the unknown, and it was intimidating. And yet here I am somehow, you know, I didn't reach that point of collapse, and physically or mentally, you know, I somehow made it here. And I'm sure there's some other, like, you know, built like a tank individual who could just barrel through and it wouldn't be a big deal. But for me, it's a big deal. And yeah, it's just wild to be standing here right now. And so I straight up, like, if I failed at this calendar year Triple Crown, and if anyone failed on the AT within the first 500 miles, and you've already at that point accomplished so much more than what you've ever done in your life before, that you don't fail at these hikes. Even if you do bail on it, you don't fail, because you've accomplished so much before you do decide for whatever reason to get off trail. And so anyway, yeah, I don't have any plans to get off trail. I'm just soaking in the moment that I'm standing here, and I walked here on my own 2 feet alone through the whites and snow, which feels awesome. And obviously I still have Maine out there further and much more to go, but it's just, I don't know. Yeah, just a reflective spot for me. I am proud of what I have accomplished so far. Another update already. Eye level, and then looking up, that's a steep section, and that snow is terrible. It's powderized, it's been warmed by the sun, it's loose, and it's slippery. I don't know. I've gotten good at identifying spots where you just fall. Like, that is a nice section right there with loose snow on top. And I walked off the trail that way to go around it. I was like, I'm not going to break my ankle in that crack there. But it's just funny because, yeah. I don't know. I just didn't expect this side to be that hard. But at the same time, like, it's not anything worse than what I've seen at this point. So I just got to keep moving. But I don't know. Yeah, just documenting further what I'm going through today.
Yeah.
Earlier this morning, I woke up because a crow was trying to break into this door. It was just a bump, bump, bump. And then went back to bed. And then I just woke up again because I heard like all this like bumping and stuff. I'm like, what is going on now? It's a person, but there's like nobody staying out here. And it was the caretaker, and he's like, oh, sorry to wake you up, but you're welcome to stay here anywhere, but you actually can't be in this building now because a helicopter could land on the roof of this building soon because they're getting a resupply today. So I'm gonna pack my stuff up, go back down to the main little hut, have a cup of coffee, and then head out for the day. So quickly filming, I think I'm at the summit of Carter Dome. I think that's what this cairn marks, but I came up this trail here, and now I'm going along the peak on this trail for a while now. So just a quick summit update. Just one more stunning view. It really feels like as you're running between these trees along this trail up here, when you get these little breaks in the trees and you can look out, it's like you're running across the top of the world. It's such a magical feeling just cruising along this ridgeline right now. And it's awesome because I'm actually able to make pretty good time right now. Again, thanks to this packed down trail. And just pausing briefly to interrupt the experience just to share how magical it feels to cruise along Carter Dome right now. You can see here, this section of the trail doesn't have any foot traffic. It's more overgrown and it's not broken. and the snow embankments are still here. You can't see them in the video, but if I zoom in, maybe you can see like those ridges are like 1.5 feet taller than the snow below, but the wide angle just flattens everything out. But anyway, just like 20 feet back, the trail turned, there was a junction in the trail, and the Carter Dome Trail went off that way. This is just the AT going this direction. And so you could see all the foot traffic went off down the Carter Dome Trail. And so continuing straight ahead along the AT, this path is unbroken. I hope that it has an ice crust on top still, but I imagine that it's going to be slower going. So just noting that the difficulty level of proceeding is now higher here because there's not foot traffic anymore. From this direction, and it feels like it continues the way that I'm going, but it's not clear. So the trail, there's also like a cutoff this way, but that does not appear to be where the trail goes. I just went that way, and then I'm just showing you how deep the snow is up here, at least up to my waist. I just post hole down to my waist. You can see, I mean, my foot is way down there, and just came from that direction, and the trail right here just disappears. I don't think that it goes that way. I mean, if you look, you could see, like, even when you look over that dead tree, it's just knocked down trees behind it. There's a clear path this way, but then it turns into a bunch of trees up there. So it's actually, I'm not really sure which way the trail goes right here. Obviously, I'll figure it out in a second. But in walking around, I got off the trail, and so now I've sunk into snow that is, at least as far as I sunk in, is up to my waist. But that's the point at which the snow compacted enough to sustain my weight. So I actually don't know how deep the snow is here, but it's at least 4 feet deep. So anyway, I'll get out of this and then see if I can figure out which way the trail goes. So a trick I've learned is if you cross your trekking poles, you can, especially on the handle end, you can then push down. There's more surface area, and you can get up and out. Okay, so just showing you quickly, like, that might be the trail there. I think that is the trail, but look how hard that is. If that is the trail, it sure doesn't look like a trail. So, yeah, and there's no footsteps to follow, so I don't know. I'm going to put the camera up and figure out where the trail goes. So just documenting the depth of this post hole. That is the deepest post hole I have ever encountered. I think the snow up here on this edge is 4 to 5 feet deep. The thing that stopped me from sinking further was the force of my hip pushing this way here and my leg pushing down on the top of the snow over here. Yep, but it actually wasn't that violent, but it was definitely, that is the deepest post hole I've ever encountered. I really like New Hampshire. I think it's going to be my favorite state in the entire AT. But I am ready to be done with this state. Holy cow. I just want to be in Maine. For whatever reason, I feel like it's going to get better in Maine, but it probably won't. Well, at least the mountains won't be as tall. Like, I know the trail's here somewhere, but I don't even know if I'm on the trail. Like, does that look like a trail to you? I'm pretty sure that's the trail. It's so hard to see in the snow. And this hill is just, let me fix the angle. Imagine walking on that. That's level with the ground, slanted. And the top 2 inches of snow are just melted from the sun, and it just disintegrates under your feet. And when it disintegrates, you start sliding off to the right. I just recorded that last video right up there, like 20 feet up there. Then I took 2 steps and I slid maybe 20 feet down the hill. And then the funniest part is, like, I don't even know if this is the trail. So I have to go down here and explore and see if I can find the trail. And if it's not, then I have to go back up there. People ask me if I'm scared of bears out here. And the genuine answer is no. And the reason is a priority ranking. I'm much more scared of hiking on 4,000 foot peak mountains and above when you're on the summit, especially at night, in the snow and when the trail's not clear. I think that's the scariest thing on the AT that I encounter, in my opinion. And it's just funny because, like, the bear is like this, people don't like the word ignorant, but I mean ignorant in the sense that one lacks experience. It's like this ignorant idea of fear of, like, what the forest is like. But the reality is that, like, more mundane, like, immediately endangering things are much scarier than, like, the idea of a bear, when I've basically seen no bears out here. And the 3 times that I have, the only reason I saw them was because I heard them. And when I looked to see the sound, it was just the back of the bear sprinting up a hill to get away from me. So anyway, no, I'm not scared of bears. And that's not a macho statement. It's just like, there's not really a reason to be scared of bears. And help me understand, where's the trail? That looks like a bunch of trees. That's definitely a bunch of trees. I guess it's down that way. Oh, there it is, over there. Snow is definitely starting to thin at this point. So I just did the last 2 miles coming down that peak. Took me 2.5 hours to go 2 miles. And I think I'll do the next 2 miles in about 40 to 50 minutes.
There's here we go. 80 super deals. Have you heard 80 super deals? I even tried to talk my kids into it for Christmas or Mother's Day.
I love this video because it puts into perspective how big the mountains are relative to the towns that we're in down here. I mean, that looks massive relative to the road, but that's more or less what the whites look like. You're just going up and into and then over the top of those for like 10 to 15 miles before you come back down into the next notch. And Pastor Candace, who just picked me up, warned me that this stretch should take 3 to 5 days. And so I actually packed something like 2.5 days worth of food, not knowing that. And I have snow ahead of me, so it might be 3 days worth of food that I have. I think I'll be fine either way. But this is apparently a harder stretch, including the Mahoosuc Notch and the Mahoosuc Arm, which I was just reading up on those. The Mahoosuc Notch is known to be the most challenging mile on the AT. I think think it involves a lot of like rock scrambling and then working your way through like narrow gaps, which that'll be interesting to see what those look like maybe in the snow. In fact, it may be impassable. I really have no idea. So, as I was saying, I've seen spring a few times. Something that just hit me though, this is even more special because this is the first time I'm seeing truly green tree leaves. I've been hiking and living outside in winter basically since January 15th of this year. And I have not seen a green leaf in that time except for a few grass blades in Virginia and buds. But this is the first time I'm really seeing not even just the sprouting of leaves, but a full forest of green leaves. And I cannot explain to you how much more meaningful these green leaves are to me this spring than they ever have been in my life before, other than maybe when I was a child. Because when you're seeing it as a kid, it's magical. It's something you're seeing for the first time. This feels like that kind of a discovery. That's something that I think is beautiful about getting beyond your comfort zone and even travel in general. If we think back to like what life was like as a kid, everything is magical, largely because you're inherently getting beyond your comfort zone. You're seeing things for the first time, trying things for the first time. And when you travel, it's a way of reconnecting with that way of engaging the world for the first time. When you go to a new country, you're trying new foods, you're smelling new smells, you're meeting new people. It's kind of like to be a child again. And that's something I've always loved about travel and that I now realize about hiking. And even about hiking through different seasons, which is kind of a wild one. Especially from winter to spring. That's maybe the harshest transition. Or maybe fall to winter. Can't even imagine what fall to winter would feel like. That's like something beautiful to something hard. At least winter to spring, it's something hard to something beautiful. So in my read ahead and watch ahead to get a sense of what makes the Mahoosuc range more challenging, one of the takeaways, the last takeaways I got was it's very rocky, and specifically the person who did the write-up said they would not hike this range in the rain. I think presumably because it's so rocky and potentially slippery. So anyway, I got that knowledge just prior to starting the hike today, and then maybe 45 minutes into the hike it began to rain. I feel like I'm in a Japanese garden. Or like Willy Wonka land. So a few minutes ago I was here in my tarp and I heard something come stomping down through the trees. So I turned my head up to look right out the tarp, and I see coming running between that tree and that tree, this direction, like literally right here, a moose. A female moose came running, and it was loud, like the power or the sound of the hooves. It sounded like a horse running. And so I hear it thump, 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 thump. And then I heard it stop right over here. So I just stayed still. And then it was quiet for maybe like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And then it goes thump, 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 and it just keeps running off that direction. So I just saw my first moose on the East Coast. Pretty cool. All right, here we go. Historic moment. Back into Maine. Crazy. This is definitely one of the hardest sections yet. I don't mean specifically where I am right now, but just in general today. It's not that the climbs last forever. It's that the terrain is so blocky and rooty and rocky. It's just it seems like every bit of the trail is a challenge. Very slow moving. And I'm telling you, this is what today has been like. I think I'm gonna go 15 or 16 miles today. And this is not, I mean, obviously like climbing straight up on rebar is like, you know, almost as challenging as it will get today. There are sections that were covered in ice and were, I would say, low grade bouldering to get down. Getting down was particularly hard, where there was no rebar. But anyway, I'm just filming this to show the level, just one small section of the level of difficulty today. Cruising my first ridge in Maine. I'm remembering now what makes Maine so special. In Maine, when you're hiking, it's just you and the mountains. No cities. In any direction. Stuff like this. Can you imagine stepping right there and then post-holing through the staircase? Let's try to not do that. You can see how that person slid. So it's ultra foggy, and I stopped right here like I was on the edge of a cliff. I've learned at this point that is like a knee-deep mud bog. And I don't want to walk in it, but there's no way across. There are no boards. I don't see a board. I'm on this peak and visibility is about like 5 or 10 feet right now. It's crazy. The camera can see better than my eyes can, to be honest. Other way?
I think so.
No thank you to that hole. Going this way. That is the trail. Eye level. Vertical. So I monitor all footprints as I hike. I gotta say, that's a first. That is a bare human foot in the snow. Can you see it? That is a barefooted person walking down the peak of, I think it's called Wildcat Mountain.
Upstream, kind of interesting.
Yep.
We have rowing shells like Tony has, and we also have a rowing skiff, which we rode in the ocean with. So that's, we take that out on, we took that out earlier in the year because the water was so cold.
But it's like you can get seriously lost if you're not paying attention. I always have to have landmarks of some sort.